do a short segment on that one.
All righty. Well, everybody, welcome to the fourth public hearing for the Program Year 2017 Action Plan for U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Entitlement Funds. The purpose of this meeting is specifically to address the planned uses of supplemental funding received from HUD for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program this year. This hearing is an opportunity to provide input to Louisville Metro government in response to this supplemental award that was announced by HUD on June 30th, 2017 in the amount of $550,206. Comments on the draft program year action plan can be made tonight following this presentation or submitted via mail or email until September 1st, 2017. For those of you that are not familiar with them, Emergency Solutions Grant Funds provide funding to support efforts to end homelessness in our community. Specifically, funding is used to engage homeless individuals and families living on the street, improve the number and quality of emergency shelters for homeless individuals and families, provide support to operate these shelters, help those shelters provide essential supportive services to those folks using the shelters, rapidly rehouse homeless individuals and families, and prevent families and individuals from becoming homeless. ESG funds may be used for those 5 program components, including street outreach, emergency shelter, homelessness prevention, rapid rehousing assistance, and homeless management information systems costs, or HMIS, as well as administrative activities of up to 7.5% of the recipient's allocation. And as a quick overview, Louisville Metro gets its entitlement funds from HUD based on a formula each year. And so we're known as a participating jurisdiction or an entitlement community. In order to receive these grant funds, Metro must complete a number of documents. The first is a 5-year consolidated plan, which provides an overview about how the city will plan to use those funds for a period of 5 years and allows them to plan and consider their affordable housing and community development needs and market conditions, make data-driven decisions for investing funds, and outlines priorities and goals that will drive funding decisions for that 5-year period. More specifically, the annual action plan describes how those funds will be allocated and to what types of programs they'll support, and identifies goals and outcomes for the program year that build towards those 5-year goals. Additionally, every year we must provide a CAPR, or Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, which is an annual report back to HUD on the activities carried out with those funding sources. And again, the HUD entitlement funds are community development block grant funds, home investment partnership funds, which are used for housing development, housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, or HOPWA, and the ESG funds we'll be discussing tonight. This was a unique year in that we've had a number of planning events around these funds due to the delay in appropriations from Congress this year. And this last public hearing is also an anomaly because this is to allow us to address a one-time allocation of supplemental ESG funding. And as you can see from the slide above, the HUD entitlement process is an iterative process whereby we provide information back and forth with HUD and they provide funding, which we then spend. So first, again, we have our 5-year consolidated plan, which covers the periods 2015 to 2019. And from that, because we submitted that, HUD will issue our annual formula allocation for those entitlement funds. Based on that annual allocation, we then develop our annual action plan, and then funds are awarded to Metro, which we then spend as outlined in that action plan. And finally, we turn back into HUD after we spent those funds, our annual Consolidated Performance Evaluation Report, or the CAPR. And this is just a quick summary of the funds that have been received for program year 2017 for Louisville Metro government. We've got $10,247,333 in CDBG funding, $2,339,376 in home funding, $668,960 in HOPWA funding, and our initial ESG allocation was $928,273. And the supplemental funding we'll be discussing tonight is $550,206 for a grand total for ESG for this coming year, or current year that we're already in as of July 1st, of $1,478,479. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Heath Rico-Story from the Department of Resilience and Community Services to discuss what our homeless services programs accomplished in the past year we've reported on, and more importantly, the plans for how we're going to use these additional funds.
Thank you, Curtis. So just to give an overview of how ESG funds fit in with other funding sources, you can see that Metro uses ESG funds in tandem with other funding sources to meet our goals in serving the homeless community. You can see from some of our accomplishments from 2015, we had 49 households that received home tenant-based rental assistance. We had about 10,000 homeless persons using CDBG supported services. 13 programs were served by 12 nonprofits, serving about 6,600 clients, and a variety of assistance from ESG funds, such as from street outreach, prevention, shelter operations, and essential services. And finally, the Family Economic Success Program provided about 1,700 individuals the skills necessary to move towards self-sufficiency through referrals and case management. So you can see how valuable these sources of funds are, and we're pleased that HUD has given us an additional $550,000 to provide enhanced services. So our proposal is to utilize these funds in a way that splits these funds between the Office of Resilience and Community Services, which I'll refer to as RCS, and the Office of Housing and Community Development, which I'll refer to as OHCD. So RCS will receive approximately $240,000, while OHCD will receive $310,000. Now, RCS intends to use the supplement to fund projects that are aimed at families and youth that are experiencing homelessness. We propose to use these funds for rapid rehousing projects, as well as for homelessness prevention programs. We are also proposing to allocate $20,000 to continue the Shelter Works program, which provides job training and employment counseling for qualified shelter residents. OHCD intends to use the supplement for the repair and rehabilitation of existing homeless shelters in Louisville. So why did we choose these priorities? ESG regulations require that we cap no more than 60% of allocations for shelter operations and for street outreach. Now, existing shelters are in need of funds for repair and light rehabilitation, so this gets close to our 60% maximum for shelter operations. To utilize the remainder, RCS is focusing on prevention and rapid rehousing programming, which are targeted towards families and youth. Targeting this population aligns with the mayor's and the Continuum of Care's priorities to end homelessness among families and youth. Now, an important note to make is that ESG does require a 100% match of funds. So all these funds are going to be opened up to a competitive application process for any private, nonprofit agencies that address the mentioned priorities. All applications will be scored by a panel of experienced professionals, and the funding announcement will be released September the 1st, and any questions will be taken by September the 10th. Applications will be due by September the 15th, with award announcements going out by October the 15th. So here's an outline of the timeline for the action plan. You can see that tonight we have had our special public hearing for our supplementary funds, and we are having an abbreviated 14-day period of comment, which will end September the 1st. If you'd like to review the draft plan, you can go to this website, or you can obtain hard copies at the following places. At Metro Development Center, which is at 444 South 5th Street on the 5th floor, at Edison Building, the Edison Center, which is at 701 West Ormsby on the 2nd floor, or at the public library branches, or at any neighborhood place sites. Any comments can be mailed at the above address, which is Louisville Metro Government, the Office of Housing and Community Development. Attention Melinda Breslin at 444 South 5th Street, the 5th floor, Louisville, Kentucky, 40202, or via email at melinda.breslin@louisville.gov.
And this, just a note for the record on the video that there are no attendees present wishing to speak tonight. Therefore, there will be no public hearing speakers this evening. But again, as Heath just noted, you can submit comments at any point up until September 1st, at which point the public comment period will close. All comments received will be evaluated by the Office of Housing and Community Development and the Office of Resilience and Community Services, and we will have official responses to those comments in the final plan submitted to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. With that, we encourage anybody watching this video to take a gander at the final plan for review, to assess these plans for the ESG funds and submit any comments you may have. Thank you.